Shockwaves hit Buckingham Palace as Camilla reportedly attempted to rewrite royal rules, aiming to quietly shift power and influence behind closed doors. But her plan didn't go unnoticed. Prince William acted instantly, shutting it down before it could gain ground. Insiders say the proposal crossed sacred royal lines, prompting William to launch a swift and decisive response. In a single bold move, he proved that the future of the monarchy would not be altered without his consent or his authority. The moment the rule rewrite emerged. It started the way palace storms often do, quietly, almost invisibly. A whisper here, a document there. But within days, those whispers hardened into something far more serious. According to circulating reports, Camilla was allegedly pushing a behind-the-scenes plan to rewrite long-standing royal rules, and the implications sent shockwaves through Buckingham Palace. Senior staff reportedly noticed something unusual first. Drafts. Not ceremonial notes. Not symbolic suggestions. These were described as policy-style revisions, quietly passed between trusted aides and senior courtiers. The language, insiders say, wasn't about appearances. It was about authority, influence, and future structure. What raised alarm was how far these proposed changes appeared to go. Palace veterans, some with decades of service, allegedly felt the plan crossed unspoken but sacred boundaries. These were rules tied to succession, hierarchy, and the delicate balance between the reigning monarch, the queen consort, and the future king. As the rumors spread, one theme dominated private conversations. This wasn't Camilla's lane. Staff began to speculate that the alleged rewrite would subtly shift influence toward Camilla's inner circle, giving her allies more sway while quietly narrowing the scope of Prince William's future authority. To many, that wasn't modernization. It was repositioning. The atmosphere inside the palace reportedly changed overnight. Meetings grew tense. Emails were reread. Advisors began choosing their words more carefully. Some questioned whether King Charles was aware of the full scope of what was being discussed, or whether parts of the plan were moving independently under Camilla's influence. What truly accelerated the situation was leakage. Portions of the alleged proposals, or at least references to them, began appearing in royal watcher circles and online discussions. Whether accidental or intentional, those leaks ignited a firestorm. Once the idea of a rule rewrite hit public rumor networks, it was impossible to contain. And then came the most important realization of all. Prince William knew. By the time word reached his camp, insiders say the mood shifted instantly. This was no longer palace gossip. This was a direct challenge to the framework of his future reign. A senior aide allegedly summed it up bluntly. This goes straight to the heart of who controls what, now and later. From that moment on, one thing was clear across the palace. William was not going to let this slide. The question was no longer if he would respond, but how fast. What Camilla allegedly tried to change. As details of the alleged plan surfaced, the scope of what Camilla was rumored to be attempting became even more controversial. According to palace chatter and royal commentary, this wasn't about etiquette or ceremonial adjustments. It was about structural power. The most repeated claim? That the proposed changes would reshape succession influence, subtly redefining who gets a say in key decisions once William ascends the throne. Insiders alleged that certain drafts appeared to expand privileges for figures aligned with Camilla, longtime allies, advisors, and courtiers who have been close to her since before Charles became king. Critics argued that this could effectively lock in Camilla's influence long-term, even into William's reign. That idea alone was enough to trigger alarm bells. The monarchy operates on continuity, but also on clear lines of authority. Any attempt to blur those lines is seen as dangerous. Even more troubling were claims that some of the revisions would limit William's prerogatives as future monarch, not publicly, but procedurally. Changes to advisory access, internal approvals, and representation rights were reportedly among the rumored tweaks. To palace traditionalists, this wasn't evolution, it was encroachment. What made the situation explosive was the format of the alleged proposals. These weren't casual suggestions floated in conversation. They were said to be written drafts, circulated quietly, framed as internal updates rather than major changes. That presentation, insiders say, made them harder to detect and easier to advance without immediate resistance. Then came the leaks. Fragments of the alleged rewrite, or at least descriptions of them, began appearing online. Some royal watchers claimed screenshots. Others referenced unnamed aides. Whether accurate or exaggerated, the damage was done. The idea that Camilla was trying to rewrite royal rules became a narrative too powerful to stop. Supporters of Camilla pushed back hard, arguing the claims were distorted, even malicious. They insisted any discussions were about clarifying protocol, not seizing power. But for William's camp, intent mattered less than impact. From his perspective, the message was clear. Something was moving forward that could reshape the monarchy without his consent. And that, according to insiders, was the unforgivable part. By the time William stepped in, the conversation inside the palace had already shifted from, "Is this happening?" to, "How do we stop it?" And when the future king decides to stop something, he doesn't debate it endlessly. He shuts it down. Palace reaction, a quiet alarm. When the whispers of Camilla's alleged rule rewrite reached the higher ranks of palace staff, the response wasn't loud, but it was urgent. Senior advisors, already well-versed in protocol and royal hierarchy, immediately sensed that this was no minor misstep. It was a move that threatened the balance of royal authority. Behind closed doors, meetings were held with hushed voices and guarded glances. Top aides scrambled to interpret what these internal revisions would actually mean if implemented. Would they shift power, undermine William's preparations as future king, or create new dynamics within the royal household? Some palace insiders reportedly questioned whether King Charles had knowledge of these proposed changes. Was he in silent agreement? Or had Camilla acted with a degree of autonomy that caught even him off guard? There was no consensus, but there was concern. One senior figure was overheard calling the moment a quiet constitutional alarm bell. Meanwhile, other palace factions reacted with suspicion. Was this truly about modernization? Or was something more strategic unfolding? Some even feared a long-term game plan was in motion, one that would reshape influence before William could take the throne. By now, internal lines were being drawn. You were either on the side of preserving tradition or redefining control. Camilla's supporters allegedly argued that the proposed revisions were designed to clarify internal operations in the modern monarchy. But those closest to William reportedly didn't buy it. The energy in the palace shifted. Staff routines changed. Emails were double-checked. Doors to certain offices stayed closed longer than usual. And then came the confirmation that set the palace on edge. William had been briefed. William gets word and explodes into action. The moment Prince William was told about Camilla's alleged push to alter royal protocols, insiders say he moved like lightning. According to several accounts, he was furious but focused. determined to act swiftly, not emotionally. He immediately called for a private briefing with senior aides and constitutional advisors. The message was clear. This stops now. Sources close to the situation revealed that William saw the move not just as interference, but as a direct breach of tradition and a potential threat to the monarchy's integrity. For a man trained his entire life to carry the weight of the crown, this wasn't palace politics. It was personal and institutional. Within hours, William was said to have launched a pushback operation. His team began mapping the exact details of what had circulated, who had seen it, and how it was presented. He didn't rely on palace gossip. He wanted documents, names, context, and most importantly, proof. Staff described the reaction as rarely seen intensity. William had always been measured in public, but behind closed doors, this showed a sharper, decisive edge. What particularly outraged him, reportedly, was that these proposed changes were not floated openly. They were presented as technical adjustments, but would have carried huge implications for royal control once he ascends the throne. To William, it looked like a power move cloaked in administrative language. He didn't yell. He didn't rant. He strategized, one source said. And he made it clear. This isn't just about protocol. This is about the future of the monarchy. From that moment, the palace knew one thing. William wasn't asking for changes. He was demanding them. And within hours, the next dramatic step would unfold, a face-to-face confrontation that no one saw coming. The confrontation in the Privy Council. It didn't take long before the tension erupted into a rare and dramatic moment. A direct confrontation inside one of the most private, powerful rooms in the royal machine, the Privy Council chamber. Prince William, backed by senior advisors and legal aides, walked into the meeting with one clear goal: to shut down the proposed protocol changes allegedly tied to Queen Camilla. Sitting across the table were Camilla's closest supporters, some of whom reportedly defended the revisions as part of modernizing the monarchy. But William wasn't buying it. Sources inside the room described the atmosphere as icy and explosive. William's tone was firm, his words carefully chosen, but there was no mistaking the message. This is inconsistent with monarchy stability. He made it crystal clear that any plan to shift power structures, limit his influence, or embed Camilla's allies deeper into palace affairs would not be tolerated. He argued that such moves violated the traditions of succession, potentially undermining the crown's public trust. Camilla's camp, caught off guard by the intensity of William's response, defended the move as a well-intentioned effort to streamline royal operations and bring fresh structure into outdated practices. But as the minutes ticked on, it was obvious the meeting wasn't headed toward a compromise. One insider revealed, William kept his composure, but you could tell he was livid. This wasn't a discussion, it was a stand. What made this moment so rare was how public it became internally. Royal confrontations usually happen through letters, back channels, or private audiences. But this was a face-to-face clash over the soul of the institution. No agreement was reached. The sides remained divided. But William's dominance in the room was undeniable, and the message had been delivered. William's official shutdown. Not long after the heated council session, William's response became official and unmissable. Through a formal statement released by his office, the Prince of Wales categorically rejected any unauthorized changes to the monarchy's internal structures. His declaration was direct. No revisions to royal protocol or succession-related authority shall proceed without review and approval from the direct heir to the throne. This wasn't just palace language, it was a warning. And more than that, it was a boundary drawn with the sharpest royal pen. Within hours, senior aides aligned with William reinforced the message, emphasizing the importance of tradition, constitutional continuity, and the clarity of the royal line. In private, some even called it the instant shutdown. Analysts described the move as one of the most decisive and visible power checks in recent palace history. For the first time in years, the world saw William not as just an heir, but as a future monarch taking control and doing it swiftly. William didn't just stop the plan, he made sure no one forgets who's next in line, said a palace insider. In that moment, the balance of influence inside the palace shifted, and Camilla's camp knew it. Camilla's camp responds. After Prince William's decisive shutdown, Camilla's inner circle scrambled to contain the fallout. Though the Queen Consort made no public statement herself, her allies quickly moved to reframe the narrative. Sources close to Camilla insisted the entire episode had been misunderstood or wildly exaggerated. They claimed the proposed changes were not attempts to rewrite royal rules, but were focused on internal procedural clarifications, updates meant to improve operational clarity, not shift power. She wasn't trying to undermine William, one source said. The idea was to make the structure more efficient, not political. Others pointed to Camilla's long-standing record of royal service, her dedication to public duties, and her support of King Charles through turbulent years. Aides highlighted her involvement in key charity initiatives and official tours, trying to remind the public of her loyalty to the crown, not any secret ambition. At the same time, some royal commentators suggested that even if Camilla's intentions were genuine, the timing and manner of the proposal were what triggered William's furious response. Intentions aside, she crossed a sensitive line, and she did it without consulting the future king, noted one senior royal analyst. The palace released a carefully worded statement, emphasizing unity, mutual respect, and the strength of the monarchy. It didn't mention the confrontation, the proposal, or even Camilla by name. But to those watching closely, the silence on specifics was telling. While her camp tried to downplay the backlash, it was clear. Camilla had walked into territory the future king would not let her claim. And now the damage, even if controlled, was done. Public and media reaction. The media didn't waste a moment. Headlines exploded across the UK and abroad. William shuts down royal power move. Camilla's protocol push sparks crisis. Palace rift widens. News programs and podcasts dedicated entire segments to dissecting every rumor, every leak, and every carefully worded palace statement. Social media lit up with debate. Royal fans praised William's swift action, calling him the protector of tradition and a future king who won't be pushed around. Hashtags like #KingInWaiting and #ProtectTheCrown began trending. At the same time, Camilla's supporters fired back. They accused tabloids of sensationalism and defending outdated biases. Some called the backlash, another example of Diana-era shadows, unfairly being cast over Camilla's every move. Meanwhile, neutral observers just wanted clarity. Was there really a plan? One post read. Or is this just another case of palace drama getting out of hand? Polls began circulating online, showing increased support for William's leadership style, particularly among younger royal watchers. Camilla's favorability dipped slightly, especially in polls asking about her role in decision-making. Even major outlets offered differing spins. Some framed the story as a necessary power check. Others saw it as a sign of deep division within a monarchy trying to modernize and stumbling in the process. What united everyone was this: something real had happened. The details may have been debated, but the crack in the palace facade was undeniable, and the public was watching closer than ever. The impact on William's public standing. Prince William's rapid response didn't just end an internal power play. It redefined his public image as the monarchy's next great stabilizer and protector. In a single move, he showed Britain and the world that he isn't waiting quietly in the wings anymore. He's already stepping into the role of a future king who leads with clarity and conviction. Royal watchers across the board applauded his bold, measured leadership. What struck them wasn't just his decisiveness, it was his refusal to let protocol be manipulated behind closed doors. This wasn't just about one disagreement, said a former palace aide. It was about a future king proving he's already ready, even if it means drawing a line inside his own family. Support for William surged almost instantly online. Comment sections and forums were flooded with messages of praise. William's protecting the crown. He's the king we need, now more than ever. Diana would be proud. What many saw was a man who didn't hesitate, a man who prioritized legacy over comfort and tradition over palace politics. He moved quickly, quietly, and with impact, traits that painted him as not just a royal heir, but a real leader. Traditionalists, in particular, celebrated the move as a long-overdue stand for continuity and stability. In their eyes, William had finally shown the steel backbone necessary to steer the monarchy through one of its most delicate eras, a time marked by public skepticism, generational divide, and internal tension. Still, not everyone applauded. A few royal commentators and modern critics questioned the optics, suggesting the entire confrontation could have been handled privately. Some feared it reopened old wounds or fed the press unnecessary drama. But even those critical voices acknowledged a simple truth. William had made his choice, and he'd made it publicly. No vague statements, no carefully worded press briefings, just firm, immediate action. He didn't waver, he didn't hide. And he didn't leave room for confusion. For many, this wasn't just a moment of damage control, it was a historic turning point. The moment Prince William fully stepped into his authority as the monarchy's moral compass. The one who would preserve what matters, not by avoiding conflict, but by facing it with resolve. The public felt it. The palace felt it. And maybe even Camilla did too. Because the future isn't waiting anymore. It's already begun, with William at the helm. What this means for the future of the monarchy. This wasn't just a clash between Prince William and Queen Camilla. It was a seismic shift, a moment that revealed just how fragile the royal power structure can be. Even behind the polished facade of tradition and titles, William's swift and decisive response wasn't about politics, it was about preserving the soul of the crown. His actions drew a clear, unshakable boundary. Any move, but no matter how subtle or symbolic, that threatens the sanctity of succession or the constitutional role of the monarchy will be met with immediate resistance. And this time, the resistance came not in whispers, but in a direct public stance that left no room for confusion. In doing so, William didn't just stop a quiet power play. He reclaimed authority in a palace where influence often moves in silence. As for Camilla, the queen consort still holds her place. But with it now comes visible limits. Her once rising influence may have reached its ceiling. The royal household, while officially united, has sent an unmistakable message. There are lines even a queen must not cross. Royal watchers and insiders believe this incident could mark the start of a new operating model within Buckingham Palace. Going forward, Ceremonial roles, family engagements, and even strategic planning will be monitored with a sharper eye. Advisors will tread more carefully, and any shift in power, no matter how subtle, will face closer scrutiny than ever before. For younger royals like Prince George and Princess Charlotte, this sets a bold precedent. Power inside the monarchy isn't just inherited, it's protected with precision. Respect for structure, chain of command, and the institution's long-term future has now been forcefully reasserted. This is one of those moments, said a leading royal historian, that gets written into the next generation's rulebook. It changes how power moves and who controls it. Because from now on, everything inside the palace, every handshake, every policy draft, every seating chart will be viewed through a new lens. The monarchy is no longer just a family business. It's a tightrope walk of legacy, leadership, and calculated boundaries. And in this moment of high stakes and hidden agendas, Prince William didn't just protect his future throne, he defined the rules for everyone who dares to challenge it. This wasn't just a disagreement between senior royals, it was a clear turning point. Camilla's alleged attempt to tweak royal protocols exposed deep currents of tension within the monarchy. But what truly defined the moment was Prince William's unwavering response. By stepping in without hesitation, he reinforced his commitment to the crown's structure and made it clear that tradition wouldn't be rewritten in secret. Analysts now believe this moment may influence how the monarchy operates for years to come. William didn't just defend protocol, he defined his leadership style. And for many royal followers, it was the first real glimpse of the king he's becoming. Camilla's role remains intact, but her influence may now be viewed through a more cautious lens. One thing is certain, no royal rule will ever be changed again without William watching and acting. The line has been drawn, and the future just got sharper.